Hello, and welcome to Dyslexia Devoted, the podcast dedicated to building awareness, understanding, and strategies to help those with dyslexia. I'm your host, Lisa Parnello, dyslexia therapist and founder of Parnello Education Services. Join me as we dive into today's episode of Dyslexia Devoted. Hello, and welcome to episode 112 of Dyslexia Devoted, and this week's episode is Dyslexia Misunderstood. I am so excited to jump into this episode with you guys, but before that, I wanted to mention that it is time for the Back to School Workshop series. So I really hope some of you guys join me for that. And there's 3 different workshops. The first one is coming up this Saturday, September 7th, 2024, if you're listening to this in real time. And then the other workshops are going to be coming in the next 2 Saturdays as well. So our first one is Dyslexia for Beginners, if that is something that you would like to attend. And remember, these are all live workshops where you can ask me your questions in real time instead of just listening to me talk to you. You can talk with me and ask your questions. And then next week on September 14th, we have the Writing Booster Workshop. And on the 21st, we have morphology in the content area. So how to use Greek and Latin roots. So I really hope some of you guys join me for those workshops. We already have our first few registrants for those, and it'll be so nice to get to work with you all. So you can register for them at parnelloeducation.com/workshops. And it's just $37 for each of the individual ones, or you can sign up for all of them at an extra special discount. So jumping into this week's episode, Dyslexia Misunderstood. There have been a few things that have come up in recent weeks, and it really makes me see just how much I think dyslexia is pretty understood until I talk to people. And I'm blown away that I've lived in a dyslexia bubble for the last decade, quite literally a dyslexia bubble. It was an entire school that I was working at for kids with dyslexia, so all of the teachers and all of the kids all understood dyslexia, or at least were on their way there. And so now that my entire job is working with kids from tons of districts in the Bay Area of California and realizing how many schools and teachers don't understand dyslexia has been a little heartbreaking to me. And that's part of where this workshop this weekend came from, is that dyslexia for beginners, the things that I just take for granted that I just assume everybody knows, I realize are not actually such obvious information. There was one teacher who was being very friendly and very social and chatty and told me she'd never taught a kid with dyslexia, or maybe just one, in all the years she'd been teaching. And I wanted to die because it killed me that a veteran teacher could swear they've only ever had one dyslexic kid in their entire career. And that broke my heart because that means there's a number of kids who never got the help that they needed and the support they needed because their teachers didn't even know what to look for. And it's not because they don't care. And I think that's one of the things that's really hard because I kind of go back and forth between parents and educators because I have a huge bias in both directions. I see these parents who are trying their hardest and the schools are not helping them. And I also have been an educator who didn't know any better. So I go back and forth because I have this huge compassion for both sets of people. These parents who care so much for their kids and really want to get them the help they deserve. And these teachers who are doing everything they can and they're using all the knowledge that they've been taught or not using knowledge they haven't been taught. And parents are like, well, that teacher just doesn't care about my kid. And I know that's not true. There's no teacher on the planet who's like, I really don't care about the kids in my class. Nobody becomes a teacher that doesn't care about their kids. Teachers do not make enough money to do jobs that are miserable and to do it without caring about it. You only do this job because you care. But sometimes caring isn't enough. You need people who are willing to show you and teach you new things that they don't necessarily teach about in teachers' college. And that is both for the good and the bad. Some teachers care a lot and they think, oh, well, this kid has a learning difference, so they just can't do this. And that was one of the meetings I was spent last week. I was in a meeting with a school who basically acted like the student I've been working with for the last couple of years is completely incompetent and that he can't do anything. And it broke my heart that this is what his school thinks about him, is that he can't do anything without somebody helping him one-on-one the entire day. Because I do help him one-on-one, but I don't think he needs it the entire day. And he's capable of way more than what they think he's capable of. Just because he has a learning difference and he has a low vocabulary does not mean he's not smart or that he can't do stuff. And the idea of them having to adjust his instruction a little or repeat a direction to him just sounded like too much for them. And I just was really saddened to see that, we are in a very affluent community, and yet the support system and the belief that kids with learning differences are capable of amazing things was really unfortunate. In that meeting, there was not 1 ounce of mentioning how much progress this kid has made. This kid who couldn't read anything 2 years ago can read. The school didn't know that there's a difference between what you can read and what you can comprehend. Sometimes some kids' reading level, there's 2 different measurements. There's their language understanding and there's their decoding ability. The school didn't realize that there's actually 2 different sets of things that you might measure. That you're measuring their decoding ability can be improving while still having trouble with comprehension. And they weren't able to see that there's a difference between those 2 things. You're measuring 2 totally different concepts. Dyslexia has become very misunderstood because people are trying to build awareness to it, but it becomes something where everyone's like, oh, is that the one where they see letters backward? So if I flip my numbers around backward, does that mean I have dyslexia? And there's just this very superficial understanding of what dyslexia is, and it's trying to move past that. Yes, now we have an understanding that dyslexia is a learning difference. It is put into modern TV shows, and people don't just call people dumb just because they have dyslexia. They just have to learn to read a little differently, or thank you to the world of autocorrect and speech to text and all these other magical things that make it possible for kids with dyslexia and adults with dyslexia to have very successful lives. But yet it is still really misunderstood. So many people know sort of kind of about it, and that has to do with reading, but they don't know that it's so much more than that. So that's where this month's workshop series really comes in, is I really want to help spread the awareness about what is dyslexia. It is not seeing letters backwards. There's nothing to do with having letters be backwards that is dyslexia. It is everything to do with how they understand and process language and understand what letters represent and how to break down sounds and words and things like that. And there's so much more to it. So I really hope that we can get some more people to keep spreading the word about dyslexia, have them get a better understanding. And that's where the workshop series is really where I'm putting my efforts this month as I keep bringing more and more awareness to dyslexia. And Dyslexia Awareness Month is actually in October. So I'm hoping just to slowly ramp up as we get closer and closer to that. So this first workshop in the series is really to kick things off and hope that we can build a better understanding of dyslexia. So if you think there is somebody in your world that could really benefit from it, I would love if you share this workshop. parnelloeducation.com/workshops will show you all of the upcoming ones happening this month in September. Because I really believe that it is not any parent or educator's fault that they don't know and understand dyslexia. It is more of a societal issue that educators are not taught enough about dyslexia in their teaching programs, even though it is the most common learning difference there is. And parents just don't even know where to begin sometimes. So I really wanted this beginning place so that we can start building up more awareness. And so people know what dyslexia actually looks like in the classroom. They know how to spot it, and they know how to help kids with dyslexia be a bit more successful. All right, that is it for today, because I have a busy week ahead of me as the kids are jumping back into the school year and already having their first tests for their classes and things like that. So I really hope to see you guys this weekend on September 7th at 9 a.m. Pacific. And I will link to it in the show notes in case you want to join that workshop. And I shall see you very, very soon, I hope. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. If you want to learn even more about dyslexia, check out parnelloeducation.com/courses. See you next time.